Hey everyone, welcome aboard to this live show. Hope everybody's all right. And let me just change a few little things here. So that's fine. That's okay. And this here. Let's do this because I've got old eyes. Need to see a little bigger. And here I've got running the Hairspy HF Plus Discovery on my laptop. By Saturday, the pirate flag should be back up here. And nice to have everybody on board. Just finished eating a nice chicken sandwich. Crispy chicken sandwich that I made, homemade chicken sandwich with mayo, tomatoes, and salad, and coleslaw. So still, I think my mustache still has the smell. So hope everybody's all right. We're going to talk about next week, where it's going to be a little complicated, and we're going to come back to that in a few moments, because I will be getting a little surgery. And that means that I'm not sure exactly how it's going to be my spirit and how well I'm going to be for the Wednesday and Saturday show. We're going to start by maybe postponing the Wednesday show might be moved. Anyways, we're going to talk about it in a few moments. So, hey, welcome everybody. Welcome aboard. Nice to have you here, everyone. By the way, I'll repeat it later. Last night we had WABC that had some tests, some maintenance. And of course, that meant that they were off the air for a while. It seems basically that we might have another repeat tonight of the maintenance. Apparently, they want to do some maintenance again tonight, starting at 10 or 11 p.m. So we're going to be looking at that possibility tonight. I'll be checking it out again, and we'll talk about last night because it's interesting. There's a lot of comments about what happened and how my reception was not good. And people just, a couple of 100 miles away were like, well, it was good, but it's very complicated. Basically, WABC might be off again tonight for some maintenance. Okay, so now I'm full and I have my vodka drink right here. I want to cheers to everybody. And I got to admit, that's chicken sandwich. If I had not this show, I ate my chicken sandwich, and the first thing that came to mind was, how about a second chicken sandwich? It's just too good. But at the same time, you got to be reasonable. I have too much weight on. Man, I can't believe it. I took my weight a couple of weeks ago, 225 pounds. And I was like, okay, that's way too, I'm getting way too fat. That is 20 pounds more than a year and a half ago, roughly. So I want to try to, get a little more in shape and get that belly off and that fat off a little bit for, health reasons and all of those things. So anyways, that chicken sandwich was really good, and I'd be eating one in front of all of you if I had time to make another one, I think. So take care, everybody. And nice to have you on board on this Wednesday. I'll have a little poll because I want to ask everybody something. Richard Lemke asked me about it, and two other people actually said send me a little message, an email, telling me, "Could you do this on Wednesday?" And I'm going to ask that and ask. Well, have a little poll on it because you know what? On Wednesday, I don't mind whatever we're going to choose. Saturday is going to stay at 20 UT, so that can't move because that's okay with me. But some people would like to have the show um, on the same local time on on um, on Wednesday evenings, and which is slash Thursday UTC. So we're going to ask about that. I'm going to ask a question. Don't answer right now. I'm going to ask a question in a few moments, and we're going to see what's going to happen. So nice to have all of you here. Yesterday's WABC was kind of crappy. We'll talk about that also, and we'll just have a little bit of fun, radio fun tonight. So keep in mind, next Wednesday, probably not here. Next Saturday after that, we'll see. I'll decide during next week if it's okay or not. And if I feel I need more time, I'll let you guys know during the week. But let's just make sure that everybody understands that Wednesday, the 17th, slash Thursday, the 18th, for those in UTC, I will not have a live show for surgery reasons that I'm actually having on Monday afternoon. So, anyways, nice to have all of you here, and it's always cool to have everybody on board. My name is Gilles. I'm located in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, and this is a show about radio. It's a channel about radio, those invisible waves, magical waves, invisible magnetic waves that just go through space and time. And we particularly like those that are in a frequency range, which is shortwave from 3,000 to 30,000 kilohertz, that propagate via the ionosphere. So what happens is that they bounce off and they actually will do great distances and have us listen to stations and signals very far away on this planet. So, and in some cases, far away in our own solar system with Jupiter on 21 megahertz. So, lots of stuff going on there. So, anyways, we talk about radio and have fun. There's a beautiful chat room with wonderful people, and they are here to be friendly, help. And, if you're new to this hobby, I think this is the best place to be. I don't know how many of us had that experience, but I think a lot of us went through the experience of, some grumpy ham or some, grumpy old fart that just didn't want to help us really. Our questions were like, oh, you dumb questions. What antenna should I use? Oh, dumb question. What radio should I buy? Dumb question. Yeah, well, that is not going to happen here because those questions are not dumb questions. Those questions, if somebody says those are dumb questions, oh, that's a dumb idiot. That's not the same thing as a dumb question. And a lot of us went through some of that, feeling that there's an elite of hams and of people out there that if you don't have that $2,000, $3,000, $10,000 radio, you're a nobody. It's like, yeah, right. I've never, honestly, I've heard more DX out of people having, more regular, more down to earth priced radios than people with their big gun radios. Hey, I heard Vanuatu on my $12,000 radio. Yeah, okay, cool. I bet you today, if we would go back in time, I bet you today with those Texans and those whatever portables we have and a wire antenna and whatever, it was like, yeah, I got it too. So, yeah, What's the point of that $10,000 radio? Not that expensive radios are not, they have features and they have some interesting features in them. That's definite. And in some cases, they can help in making something interesting. I just noticed that I'm looking at the blue here and the way that it's actually on the wall with the wall in the corner. It's like some kind of flame, like a blue flame. It's as if, I'm on natural gas or something. So, anyways, everybody's welcome here. And you can blow our minds with a 20, 30, 40,000, $40 radio. And we're like, wow. And I'm sure some of you are, wow. Think about it. In 1980, would a $40 radio give you DX from 10, like 12,000 miles away? Probably not, because even at 100, imagine in 1980, 85, a $100 radio was pretty crappy in general. It was not sensitive. It was, you know, most portables that were decent were in the $300 to $400 to $500 range. That tells you one thing is that for performance versus the amount of money you pay, man, today's radios are killer radios. Any of those radios would have been cool. A Ratty Wow R108 would probably have been more fun to use for me than my Radio Shack or my Realistic DX100 back in 1982. Imagine that. A $40-$50 radio today beating a $100 radio of 1982. That tells you that we've really gone far in our technology and all that's possible today. And the price of technology has gone down so much, and it shows everywhere. I mean, computers, you can have a decent computer at, a decent price. You can have, there used to be that time. You guys remember that time when, buying a computer meant, well, okay, here's $2,000 going away in a computer and a new monitor because we moved on from CGA to EGA and to VGA and to and the computer itself, it's like, especially if you're gaming, it's like, so I got to buy a new computer every 2 years because my graphics card and my motherboard and my CPU and we moved a long way from that. Computers today last a surprisingly long amount of time. Most computers today you probably can use for, I've had my Toshiba Core i5 from 2014 until 2020. I mean, it was a 6-year computer. It was still pretty decent in 2020 compared to, if you compare it to the cheapest laptops you have available, it was still much better than that. But, it's older technology and it gets old with time and it gets slower. Then you get, I got that new gaming laptop here and I'm like, okay, my Toshiba was really slow compared to this, lightning fast new computer. But still, I don't know how many people I hear that's like, my computer's 10 years old, still works. And back in the 90s, you were not running a 10-year-old computer. So in 1992, if you were running a 10-year-old computer, you were on an IBM PC Junior, which I don't think in 1992 would see, You had to move on much faster, and it was very expensive to move on. And it kept a lot of people away from technology, computers and all of that. Shortwave is the same thing. In the 70s or 80s, you wanted to buy something decent, it was expensive. I mean, $300 in 1980 is a lot of money compared to today. And to get what? Decent performance, but nothing groundbreaking, nothing, fantastic. Mostly something just, That was okay, and it was drifting, and but it was better than a lot of stuff. And then you had and this is the interesting part, in the 70s and 80s, the desktop receivers, the IN radios, they were the ones you wanted because they were definitely the top notch, best radios out there. They were really better than a standard, um, uh, portable of the time. But that gap of performance between a very high end radio and the low end, that gap, which was this big in 1975 or 1980, is this big today. It's still there. There's still a gap. And I will not say that, tabletop $1,000 receivers are not capable of more, because, they kind of are. They kind of are in some ways. But you'll have that guy with that $75 radio is going to say, "Yeah, I heard the same signal that you did here with your $4,000 radio today." Something that was not necessarily always the case back then. Um, and thank God that technology brought radios to a price that's decent, because I cannot imagine. I cannot imagine with the state of the hobby today. I cannot imagine radios being expensive, because that is a definite killer. Here on the channel, I don't know how many times. Imagine if I talk about a radio that's $100 on the channel, I do get quite a lot of comments of, "Well, that's kind of expensive. I don't know if I want to spend $100 on something with a hobby that doesn't seem to be as, with what I had in 20, 30 years ago." And you got to think about it. It's like, yeah, it depends what you want to do. It depends what you want. And we got to understand that $100 is $100. I mean, it doesn't have the same value for everybody. For some people, $100 is like spending $1. Um, you know, for some people, $100 is like if we'd spend $10,000. Our priorities are not all at the same place. This is the world we live in, and we have to deal with the fact that we have to bring in people in our hobby of different, different possibilities, and not make them feel that because you're buying a $75 radio, you're less than me, with my fancy Texan H501 that, honestly, in Canadian dollars is almost a $500 radio. Yeah, I totally understand that I'm in a privileged position. We'll call it like that. Of course, there was help with donations and everything, but still, um, everybody needs to be welcome here, and everybody needs to be in the same position of, you know what, let's be happy with our radios, whatever you have. Um, let's do the best that we can. And for those that are not in a hobby, let's send them to the best radio they can actually get for a price that they can actually afford. And with all of that, we're all in a fantastic hobby of radio listening. And you have to deal with the way that things are. When I looked at the EIBI Space Archives and saw the schedules for 2001, B 2001, which was B01, can't help but, you start looking at, wow, I could have listened to Radio Norway. I could have listened to Radio Austria, Radio Netherlands, HGJB. I could have listened to Radio Prague and Slovakia from their own countries. Radio Australia. And you look at that and you're like, wow. And it's not that far ago that they were still on. Looks, I don't know about you guys, but for me, it starts to look like far away. Radio Australia wasn't, they left what, 5, 6 years ago? Maybe less. And, but it feels like 20 years ago for some reason. There's something about it that makes it feel longer. But what's left today, and there's plenty today. I did my ETM scan that I posted the video in the park. 40 channels, and there was stations from Madagascar relays. I heard Voice of America in English and French. I heard the BBC from Ascension Islands. I heard Vatican Radio. I heard Spain. I heard quite a few other signals. And it's like, wow, there's some stuff to listen to. I heard France. There's stuff to listen to. But the problem is, and I will always say it, our darn noise level. And so we talked about the beautiful chat room with wonderful people, and there's also a fantastic Facebook group. I totally understand that some people don't want to be on Facebook, and it's all right. For those asking, will you be on Discord on this or on that? It's like, I'm on Facebook. Don't ask me to do anything else. For a very simple reason. I do not have the time to do that. I am occupied. My life in a week is divided between videos here, live shows here, videos on the tech channel, taking care of somebody that is in a very complicated time of his life where, he can't be left alone for long periods. All of that together is taking a big toll on the amount of time and what I can do and how I can actually deal with my time frame. It's not like if this was only and only the only thing I have to deal with. If that was the case, probably I would think of other things. But my time is very, very, very complicated. And anybody out there that takes care of someone that is in a moment of his life that needs somebody to take care of him will tell you that it's not only time consuming, it drains a lot of your energy to deal with the day-to-day problems that go with it, the day-to-day emotions that that person goes through. um it's I've had moments where I had to take care of somebody, and it just didn't go well, and my mood was not there, and yet an hour later I have to be live and smiling and be here and having fun with you guys, when you know what, you just don't want to do it. So it's, I'm doing my best. I'm doing my best to do as much as I can to provide to the community, to provide to all of you guys. And I do it with the time that I have available. This at the same time is kind of my paycheck. YouTube is my paycheck. So tech channel in here, the more I do, the more I'll get money, that's for sure. And so I do my best to try to entertain and have fun with all of you. So cheers, everyone. Okay, so let's start with first things first. WABC 770 kilohertz in New York. So last night they had their maintenance period. That maintenance period didn't last that long, actually. Around 04 something, 04 15 20 UTC, I noticed they came back on and they were like just on. Now here in Montreal, the conditions were really bad. WABC was at first not even audible, which is really, really surprising, because honestly, WABC, like WCBS on 880, are powerhouse signals in Montreal. So something was happening with the signals and the absorption of the ionosphere. I noticed that at my latitude, 45.5 north in Montreal, the K index was about 5. Where south it was, because the K index, by the way, we can have a interesting little take on this. The general K index that's given when you look at the solar indices and they tell you K index is 2, that is a K index taken at Boulder, Colorado. That K index is that at that specific place on Earth. But geomagnetic um, fields and geomagnetic unrest are different with latitude. So the closer to the equator you are, the less you are influenced by that. The closer to the pole you are, the more the even a weak geomagnetic unrest can have a huge difference in your signals. So here in Montreal, 45.5 north, we have more of an effect of that than, say, New Jersey or Florida or, and sometimes just a few hundred miles is enough to make a huge difference. So Montreal last night was in the crap world of DXing medium wave. I actually, when I didn't hear 770 at first, I thought, oh, it's off the air. I went to see 880 WCBS also in New York, which was there but very weak. And I'm like, okay, no, propagation is crappy. As time went by, I could hear, and actually at 0358 UT ish, I heard WABC. I could hear it enough to hear their announcement they were going off the air for maintenance and blah, blah, blah. But propagation was just crappy. And when they went off the air, there was just nothing else. Plus, add a certain noise level I got here, forget it. It was impossible. But, a few hundred miles south, people were like, oh, look at that. I've got tons of things. So it shows you how latitude, even if you're not that far from me, makes a huge difference. So apparently tonight, and this is taken off the National Radio Club website or something like that, groups like IO group or something. I saw it go through. Somebody said that apparently there would be more maintenance tonight, possibly. So if you guys want to try WABC, sorry, on 770 kilohertz in New York, if you see that it's off the air, time to DX. Now, Sheldon Harvey in Greenfield Park, just south of Montreal, was able to actually get some Spanish at some point yesterday. And apparently Radio Rebelde from Cuba, parallel 5025 shortwave on 770 is making it up here in the vicinity of Montreal at times. So it's kind of interesting. I saw a lot of posts of people hearing Mexicans and so on. So anyways, if I don't know if it's going to happen, but if it does, kind of interesting. And regarding next week, so next Wednesday, don't expect a show. I don't think I'm going to be here for the show. So I'm having major surgery. Nothing life-threatening, but needed. And so I will be back maybe Saturday after. It'll all depend on how I feel and how much energy I have. But to play it safe, let's say that next Wednesday, November 17th, I will not do a show. I'll take it easy. For the Saturday show, I'm leaving it open because if I feel well enough, yeah, why not? It's okay. But for now, I have no idea of how I will be dealing with all of that. So this is going to happen Monday afternoon. That my appointment's there. So we'll see for the future after that. How much time I need to heal and get better with all of that's going to happen. So, Bobby Burgess, WA5107 SWL, Morgan City, Louisiana, USA. Dwayne, nice to have you on board. Matt, MDK2, nice to have you here. He's in the doctor's office. Hope it's not too bad. Nice to have you on board and no problem. Jay Watterson, 69, nice to have you here, my friend. Paul the cat is in the bedroom and his girlfriend is in the living room couch tonight as we speak. Kind of cute. Rob, nice to have you here from Phoenix, Arizona. Brad, nice to have you on board in 5LUL, WA5192SWL. Robert Cross, nice to have you here. James Farley from Old Bridge, New Jersey, nice to have you on board. Gary24 fan, nice to have you here. And he's happy to be here on Wednesday. Mark Cope from Dallas, Texas, WA5153SWL. John McClure, nice to have you on board. Eyebrawler from Northeast Arkansas. Vince, salut. J'espère que tu vas bien. Nice to have you here from De Montagne. Michael Brown, nice to have you here. David, KJ4CMY, nice to have you on board from Georgia. And Michael Brown is from Western North Carolina. TVDXer, j'espère que tu vas bien. Ça va très bien ici. Nice to have you here. The Film 2011. Good afternoon or good evening or wherever you are. Good night. Where are you located? Nice to have you here. 45 unit. Nice to have you here from Florida. Overcast, light drizzle. Kimaxi 76. Nice to have you here. Dean Hintz from Central Georgia. We have RJ Dakota. Nice to have you on board from Wentzville, Missouri. Dakota is in. Christian Marcoux, salut, bonsoir, j'espère que tu vas bien. Nice to have you here from North Bay, Ontario. Dwight, WA4532, SWL from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Mitch, nice to have you here from Buckeye, Arizona, WF7I or Homebrew. Nice to have you here from Virginia. Good luck with surgery next week. No problem. Jet Crafter, nice to have you here from Southern Maine. MP, nice to have you here. G-Man from Southwest Michigan, nice to have you here. Pretty cool. We have, and let's try to get down as fast as possible because we'll get into a little moment of sorry, we'll have a little, by the way, Richard Lemke, nice to have you here from St. Albert, but it's a little early for our friend Richard. So we'll have a little survey in not a long time and ask a little question about all of this, you guys. So we have Kimberly, K6YYL. Nice to have you on board. COVID gestational weight. They should call it Get Fat 19 virus. David, KJ4CMY, appendix transplant. Man, brain transplant. They're going to be implanting a brain that was frozen for years from Albert Einstein. I'm going to see what's going to happen with that. I'll do the general relativity equation for radio waves. Jim's Radio Check. Nice to have you here from Chicago. Alex, nice to have you here from Hamilton, Ontario. Noelson, nice to have you here from Brazil. Brad, nice to have you on board. Robert Cross picked up Radio Romania International last night from start. It started around 9 o'clock my time last night. Yeah, because one of the things that happens to Radio Romania and their schedules for winter in the Northern Hemisphere is not only they change frequencies, but they shift their time to follow their own time zone. So what we hear like at 8 p.m. now is 9 p.m. and so on. Just to make everything more complicated for fun. Carl, nice to have you on board. Marcel, nice to have you here. Gary24. David, KJ4CMY. I tried listening to Jupiter one time, but I never heard a station ID. It's crackling sound, so I don't know. Where do we send for a QSL for Jupiter? Just out of curiosity, I'd like to have a Jupiter QSL. That reminds me when I was about 13, I was the guy that tried all sorts of stuff, 13, 14. And I remember with a friend of mine, the same guy that, we'd started Shortwave together. One of my best, or still my best friend today, Jean-Pierre. We I remember it's summer, early, like it's been only 2 or 3 days that we're on summer vacation. We're about 13, 14 years old, maybe. And I look at him and then we're talking about science and stuff. And I'm like, if we write to NASA, do you think they'll send us stuff by mail? And he looks at me and he says, "Oh, I never thought of that." And I said, "Well, how about we write a letter to NASA and ask for stuff?" So he writes to NASA, and by searching in books, because that's how we search for stuff back then, books. I came across the JPL, the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, and in California, that, for example, had the Voyager, was taking care of the Voyager spacecraft and all. And so I tell him, I said, "Hey, I'm going to write to the JPL. You write to NASA. We'll see what happens." And about a month after we send the letter, I get a call, and it's my friend. He's all like hyped up. He's got this big envelope full of stuff from NASA. And I'm like, "Wow, this is so cool!" And we spend one of our summer days at his place, and he's got a documentation about all sorts of space stuff, pictures. And I mean, when budgets were there for all sorts of things, I mean, they sent a really cool big envelope. And man, that was so cool. And I was like, "Oh man, this is so cool. I want to receive something from JPL." Well, about a week after, I get this huge envelope in my mailbox. Actually, the postman rang the doorbell because it just didn't fit. And he couldn't even bend it or anything. It was very thick envelope, big envelope. And it's JPL. And I still remember being amazed. I had one book. It was a small book, like maybe a 50-page book about space exploration that I read from page one to the end 100 times, and at least 40 or 50 pictures. And I tell you, full 8 by 10 pictures of planets that were taken by the Voyager spacecraft. And I still remember me and my friend Jean Pierre, we spent an afternoon examining these images, being so amazed at what we got. And man, that was just so cool. I mean, imagine for teenagers, like they're 14 years old, getting that in the mail. I mean, no 14-year-old teenager was doing things like that. We were like really unique, and I remember the pictures. And I remember my friend looking at the pictures saying, "Oh man, these are so nice." And I remember I looked at him and I said, "You know what? I got about 40 pictures here. I'll choose the one I want to keep, and I'll give you the other ones." And it ended up that about half of the pile, 20 pictures, I kept, and the other 20 he actually kept. And he was super happy. He was like, "Oh man, I got some really cool pictures here." And we put them on our wall. He put them in I remember it on his bedroom wall. And it's like, that was so cool. I remember also writing to the what was it? There's a few places I wrote, and I got back nice documentation that really was just so cool. So cool. So, anyways, part of my childhood. Some cool childhood memories. I mean, imagine your summer vacation being going to the pool, playing with your friends, and getting some really cool mail from NASA and the Jet Propulsion Laboratory with pictures of the solar system. How cool can a summer vacation be? And I still remember when we went back to school, I think it was in I had English class, and because my English was already pretty good, and you guys have no idea what English class was here. Okay, to give you an idea, English class here is a joke. In our because classes are in French in Quebec for the most part, not for everybody. Depends on many things, but the majority of population goes to French school. And English class is kind of a joke. You don't learn English in English class. It's so basic that it's like, it's almost a joke. So for me, English was like, you know, yeah, I'm going to go to the English class today. That's so tough. But I was always a year after everybody else. And actually, that helped my friend cheat at the time, because I would be a year later in English, because they didn't have any other type of class to put somebody that's so good. And the year after, they had the same book. So I just gave him my book with my answers and says, here, you're going to get 85%, 90%. You're going to get 90% in English. That's the answers to the book for last year, for me, for this year, for you. But I remember that year in English class, we had to explain in English what our summer vacation was all about. And I still remember saying, well, it started off with, playing with, my friend Jean-Pierre and blah, blah, blah. We went to the pool, and we played tennis, and we played baseball, and played Frisbee, which was our big thing. Frisbee was that was our thing. We loved to play with Frisbee. And I said, then we wrote to NASA and JPL and everything. Everybody did that bit on who, what we did in our summer vacation, all lasted like, 10 minutes, and they didn't know what to talk about after it. I still remember being in class, and class was, at the time, English, every class was 75 minutes long. I remember that. I was the first. There were supposed to be others in that class. I took 60 minutes out of the 75, because even the teacher was like, okay, I want to listen to this. So maybe I had when I think about it today, I think about it and I'm like, yeah, maybe I had something about, talking to people and doing live stuff. Maybe it was already in me to talk about stuff. And but I remember, because I had brought the pictures, and the pictures were going in class. Everybody was watching the pictures. I was like, oh, wow. Yep, I got pictures of the solar system from the JPL. That was my summer vacation. What did you do in your summer vacation? But oh man, so great memories. My summer vacations, I would say, from my teenage years, were all very, very nice. Shortwave listening, QSL cars all summer, and things like that. It's so cool, so cool. And if there are moments in my life I'd like to go back, those would be the moments I would like to relive. Like, with the everything's new and wonderful, So, it's kind of cool. So, anyways, that from listening to Jupiter from David. Gary 24 fan. I can't remember exactly what I paid for the Sony, but I wasn't even $120. Probably I picked up plenty of my DXing pleasures. Our JDA says I did pretty good with this little $60 radio back in '76. Thomas, hams are brilliant, but I wouldn't say most, but some of them do take themselves too seriously. Maybe not most, but there's a subset of hams that are a little too intense. Let's say it like that. Marcel got a R5000, Kenwood R5000 for €10. That's pretty good. If it works, that's a good deal. What else do we have? Keegan, nice to have you on board, my friend, for Northwest Arkansas. Tom DXer, WP2QED. Nice to have you here from Hudson Valley, New York. Going to tune in at 8 p.m., but then ran across the stream by accident. Forgot about the time change. Yep. Man. Christian Marcoux, I'm looking for 15 feet long SMA cable extension. With your knowledge, what are the magic words, details I have to look for? Quality, noise reduction, thanks in advance. Wow. There's not that much magic words to look at. You have to properly choose the cable. They're not all good, and I don't know. You got to take a chance on sometimes. SMA is the problem with SMA is that the cables that are made with SMA connectors are fairly new, and you can't find that at every electronic shop. So it makes it difficult to get something that for what we want to do. I guess you'll have to. I pretty much did that. I purchased SMA and SMA extended cables and SMA adapters and all sorts of stuff just by trying. And a couple of them are crappy and noisy, but a couple of them are actually very good. But it was just by there's no definition. If you buy them online, you know you have to abide by high quality, low noise, blah 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 blah. Yeah, I hope you're not lying because I'm gonna buy the cable from you, and some of them are kind of not necessarily the best trusted sources. And once you find one though, if you buy it from a place and it's good, remember that place because that means that place probably sells really good cables. Thomas, I busted my ass to get both my technicians and general license last winter. I would rather DX and listen to shortwave than try to talk on the amateur bands, just my viewpoint. And that's fine. Not everybody wants to talk anyways. Not everybody wants to do ham radio. And there's nothing, you're not less of a radio listener or even a radio expert by being just a listener, honestly. I'm tired of having classes of radio guys. Zen Farrows, nice to have you on board. Following with this Texan PL330 and MLA 30 Plus. Cool. ManMax 2069, nice to have you here. We have the blind picker. Rob, nice to have you on board, my friend. Just got his GP7, trying to figure it out. Yeah, that is the tough part when you're blind. That's the tough part. I don't know how I could do a video explaining to the blind, for example, a portable radio that would be helpful in the operations of the radio. Because that's a tough one. I mean, the GP7 has tons of buttons on it. It's almost as if you just have to press something and know what it does. It's I'd be curious to know what's your how do you learn about the radio? What's your learning process? How do you figure it out when you have it? When you're not in your position, we don't know exactly how do you deal with it and how do you learn about a new radio you have in your hand. I would guess you got a manual. I would guess you got a manual that is probably being read to you maybe with your computer or something. But still, you have that layout of buttons. And that layout of buttons, how do you explain that to somebody that is disabled, for example? How can I, and you know what? I would like you to help me in there. Can I, in some way, do a video or a series of videos to help people like you understand the radio and how to operate it. I would like to know if there's some way I can help in there, because I would definitely be happy to do videos about it. Already I've done, a big part. I've had a few people tell me, when you do your test with 2 radios or more, please tell us in the video what radio we are listening to all the time. I had a few people saying I'm blind, and I would like to know when I listen to one and the other, which is which. So please state, and that helped me. My videos now, I always state this is the radio and that radio and this other radio. And I mention it all the time in the video because I know that it helps people that cannot see it. And so at least that helps. And it's nice when people can guide me into, I have this disability or I have that disability. If you would make that video in this way, it would help me. So if you have any ideas or anything, please do let me know, because one of the first things I would like to do is make videos that are not just helpful for people that are, in the regular life that don't even know what it's like to have some kind of disability, but that would help disabled people in any way. I would really, really like that. KW1161, nice to have you here in a for shortwave universe far, far away. Like that. So James Farley, can't wait for Radio Verdad on 4055. Are they still out the air? They're out the air for a while. Have you heard anything new? Because 4055 Radio Verdad has been off the air for quite a little while now. Christian Marcoux, MLA30 and Texan PL330 are Gilles' standard issue equipment. I like that. Broad Skilling, hang in there, Gilles. Have friend in hospice now. Being here recharges me. This life, yeah. Tommy Exeter, my wife is disabled and can't go anything for herself. I am her sole caretaker, so I fully understand what you're saying about what it takes to care for someone. Man Max, medium wave conditions pretty horrible in Ohio. I can usually get 740, 900. Got absolutely nothing the last few days. Yeah, I know. I will. I'm not complaining. But I think everybody that is a caregiver knows that it drains a lot of energy off of who we are, and in multiple ways. It also drains energy because it, I think it at some point makes us sad to see someone, um, kind of fade away. And it's sometimes hard to get back into your standard life because it removes part of that energy you had, especially when it's somebody you like, somebody you love. It's complicated. 0-100. Nice to have you here at KD2ANN. TVDX or WCBS was inaudible last night. Yeah, I had you know what? I don't know if they're the same power. I don't know if both are 50 kilowatters, but WCBS was there for me, but it wasn't very strong. It was just there. Usually WCBS is like a local station here, but it was just there yesterday. WABC is also usually a local here, and it wasn't there last night at all. Nelson listening to China Radio International in Brazil, 7205. James Johnson. I'm trying to catch up. I'm half an hour behind, by the way, guys. James Johnson, nice to have you here from Jacksonville, Florida. W84493 SWL at Greenland Station. Nice to have you here. Mike, WDX50. Nice to have you here from Northwest Arkansas. Waiting for storms to roll in. Ho ho. David McCormick, nice to have you on board. Al H, nice to have you here. Knows how I feel. Take care of my elderly mother here in Massachusetts. And I live in New York State. It's difficult going back and forth. Thank God I am retired. And, for me, it's thank God I'm doing this because I have flexibility. It's not like a guy that has a 9 to 5 job. That gives you zero flexibility. It means you work and you take care. Here, it's I work and I can take time to do stuff. It reflects itself in the number of videos I do every day. You will know that the more videos I do, the more time I have for myself. The less videos I do in a day, or if I don't do any videos, I didn't have time for myself. It's pretty much all the way it goes. Kenzo, nice to have you here. Recently picked up a C-Crane EP Pro for AM DXing and has 2-wire red, black AM stereo antenna jack. What's the best antenna to use? So this is meant to be used with all sorts of things. It could be a big loop, which are really nice in medium wave because of the directional pattern that it has. It can be all sorts of things, very long wires. Experiment. Uber Geek. Side boom waving a hand. So nice to have you here. What else do we have? Rufus Newt, nice to have you on board from the Laurentian Valley, Ontario. Got a bunch of cabbage rolls out of the oven. Cool. Enjoy. James Johnson been on the radio a lot lately and I haven't really watched much YouTube, but am well at a new home in Jacksonville. Cool. Nice to have you here. The funniest thing, Christian Marcoux, is that for the past couple of days, both were close together in the bedroom. So I don't know if they had some kind of, relationship problems, but now she's on the couch and Paul is in the bedroom. Mike Anna 261, nice to have you here. Corn Patch DX, Europe has been coming in very well to Iowa the last few mornings, but I noticed the shortwave bands have been noisy and not so good in the overnight. Yeah, we've had a lot of geomagnetic unrest in the past week and a half, so things will probably be better, hopefully. JGH, remember all vets, both USA and Canada tomorrow. Oh, yeah. I mean, the 11th of the 11th. At what how they say it? The 11th of the 11th at the 11th hour and 11th minute and whatever. Honestly, if there's one thing and I will say it very bluntly. I am I watched several times because I kind of liked the narrative and seeing how all of that happened. I mean, I am one of the I'm a Gen Xer. I'm a guy that did see the Cold War and saw the Cold War at some of the times that it was one of the worst. I mean, the 80s Cold War was one of the most tense Cold War like we had in the Cuban crisis and stuff like that. And so for me as a Gen Xer, I fully understand that we went through some really, really rough moments in our history. And World War One, and then World War II. I wish one thing. When I look at everything that happens with the resistance to vaccination, COVID, and let's not. I don't want to have a debate here, and I don't even want to have a comment in the channel about whatever. I just am saying. Some people should know and see And you know what? Everybody, every single human being should see, and the young generation today should see World at War, which is free on YouTube, anyways. Great, great documentary about World War II on YouTube from the BBC World Service. So the BBC, anyways. And another one, Cold War. I think if people could see the suffering, because I mean, today there's suffering in countries and people just don't know about it. And that is another problem. You know, it's like there are people today being kidnapped for their religious belief, for whatever reason, because they're women and they are now, you know, hey, you're my wife, and that's it. And I got nothing to say, which is horrible. Horrible when you think about it. Um, I wish there would be a little more education of, can you just sit down in your ass and see how rough life can be when you lose control of it? Because I'm sorry, but those men, young men, that, you know, life should be wonderful and they will marry and they will have hopefully the best life in the world, that are suddenly enrolled because it's war. I mean, when I hear somebody say, you know, oh, my rights, I don't want to get vaccinated, versus, yeah, I'm taking you, you're going to Europe, and you're probably going to die on the field somewhere. I just want to say, shut the F up. And that's all I'm going to say. And we're going to stop here. And no comments, please. No comments of any politics or anything. Okay? So let's remember, because these guys in World War One, and again in World War Two, are part of the reasons that I'm here doing something I like in a country which is Canada, and that I will just say is probably one of the greatest countries in the world. And freedom and understanding how um, being helpful with each other should be. We've had examples in the last couple of years where you start thinking that, you know what, I'm very happy to be in a darn good country like I am. And I just think everybody at this moment should thank those that participated in that, but even more, be there for a moment and think about all of those that never came back. That life, crappy life, from, you know, dictators and people that are horrible. Um, well, their life got away and they never came back. And that is something that we should not only remember, but I think we should just put it in the face of everybody. It's like, can you just sit down and shut up? Because you're complaining about this little meddling problem. You don't even understand half of it. And let's go back to Shortwave. DX Sport, nice to have you on board from Cincinnati. David McCormick, take your Conicom GP7 SSB with you. What else do we have? Dubious, nice to have you here from the Netherlands. And I mean, you guys in Europe, everybody in Europe, how horrible moments were all of that. You know, it's crazy. Here where, you know, we had to send people over, and we had to, and there was a way of life, but we weren't really particularly, you know, we were sending military and all sorts of stuff, and and some were not coming back. That was the hard part. But at least we weren't the territory where bombs were falling, and you needed to be in the shelter or anything. So nice to have you here, James Johnson. Nice to be here tonight. Says glad the regulars see the regulars, and glad to see the new people also. David McCormick, K9DV, says 73s from Holland. Mike Canada 261 says, from Utah here today, I made a contact from here into Quebec, Canada on CB. Oh, this is so cool. Al, do you hear WOR 710 in my location? Yes, absolutely. I hear it very well. Very well here. Gustavo Bernandez, nice to have you here from Venezuela. It's pretty cool to have you on board. That's 16 UT, heard BBC on 21630. Cool. David, KJ4CMY said, had no problem anywhere last night. Heard Spanish on 770 regularly. So, pretty cool. Yeah, here we were probably very unfortunate due to the fact that we're closer to the geomagnetic unrest problems because we're closer to the poles from you. What else do we have? Kevin, nice to have you here from New Jersey. Received EQSL from Radio New Zealand for 09 UTC catch on 7245. Only time I ever heard them. I only received nothing on WABC maintenance. Wow, congratulations, Kevin. That's cool. In the summer, you don't hear 13840 when you try it, Kevin? It should make it to New Jersey in general in the summer evenings. But morning, 7245 is a good one. Cool. Congrats on the QSL. I got 2 QSLs from New Zealand. One when they were only 7.5 kilowatts from 1983, 4-ish. And one later when they had those new 100 kilowatt transmitters they're using today. Keegan says, I'm changing my YouTube name to hand my name Keegan. Yeah, why not? Why not? That's not a bad idea. Not a bad idea. Dave T wrote to NASA when I was about 10, and they sent me 2 huge envelopes with pictures. I still have them 40 plus years later. What a thrill. Absolutely. What a thrill. It was just so exciting. Jetcrafter says, well, I used to write to NASA all the time in the 70s. They used to send me great photos, pamphlets, and one time they sent me 3 complete mission books from John Glenn's flight. Oh, this is so cool. It's so cool to get that when you're young, actually. Solid Comms, good evening. Nice to have you here. Brent, nice to have you on board from Brockville, Ontario, Canada. Hope you are well too, my friend. Nice to see you. Been a long time. And Jetcrafter still has his NASA stuff. Cool. Man, JJH saw Sputnik in the late 50s. Yeah, so cool. What else do we have? Let's go down. Brad. You have the give of gab. What else do we have? What else do we have? James Johnson. We just check. Try to go a little more here. Iron Boy YT. Why does this seem like a LSB or USB broadcast, or is it me? But Blind Picker, Rob, let me know if there's any videos I can do that could help out. That would be really, really nice. Iron Boy, I been listening. It's going to be 40 years next year. Let's try to reach Try to do a little faster. So if I miss out, by the way, on anybody not said hello, just say hello again. And always nice to have you here. Okay. Getting there, guys. Yeah, getting there. Magazine 76, space exploration is fascinating. The distances in space are amazing and mind-blowing. Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. I am amazed that we're getting pictures of another planet, like when, Curiosity and all of these probes on Mars are sending in pictures, and it's like, wow, are you understanding you're seeing a picture of the surface of another planet in our solar system? This is just the coolest thing that can happen. No, I didn't forget. I did look at it, and I'm going to look again, but Elizabeth wasn't there tonight. So let me just check it out here again. So no, Elizabeth's not there tonight. Elizabeth's not there tonight. Yeah, but WS, the problem is most radios, there's very little radios that have voice synthesizers. And I don't know, maybe radios should have Braille on their keyboard. Maybe that should be some, default of every electronic device we own. I don't know. Vince, starting to hear something on 770. Let me check it out here with the MLA30. Is 770 coming in tonight better than yesterday? Oh, man, tonight it's really good. Tonight, 770 is definitely much better than yesterday. Yesterday was almost impossible. Sorry. Tonight, 770 is making it. So that's 770 right now. So maybe if they do the test tonight, maybe tonight's going to be the best time to try it for sure. Ronnie Hicks, the recent solar activity has silenced some of my favorite shortwave stations. Yeah, and don't forget one thing, because there's two things happening, and we have to be careful not to mix them up. Solar activity has been up, and there's been geomagnetic storming, solar flares. Also remember, change of schedules, and there's also the fact that with the changing of seasons, propagation is different for a lot of stations also. So it's very, very important to understand that it's a mix of many things together that are giving us what we're listening to. So, yeah, Michael Brown, I saw that. It still had an effect, though. There was still a solar blackout on shortwave on the sunlit side of the Earth. Want to check that out, Iron Boy? That would be nice. I know. What else do we have? What else do we have? Thomas, quick question. WABC, WCBS, WBZ all are 50 kilowatt broadcast stations? No? Yeah, I'm pretty sure they are all, they are what we call clear channels. So on a medium wave band, for those that don't know, there are graveyard channels. There's kind of standard channels and there's clear channels. The graveyard is where low powered mishmash of all sorts of things in. There's like standard channels that what they do is they shift their power levels depending on where they are and where they broadcast. Sometimes they will, change the pattern of their transmission to not interfere with others. And then there's clear channels, and clear channels are the dominant. They're 24-hour, 50 kilowatt stations, and they stay there. And they are the dominant ones. So when you go to a frequency and you hear only one station and it's always the same one, that's a clear channel. You're hearing the dominant channel there. They're spaced apart a little more because they don't want to interfere with each other. Then, like I said, there's the AM channels that are more like daytime power, 50 kilowatts, but nighttime power might be 5,000 watts or 10,000 watts. Change the pattern, not to interfere with somebody else, makes it more difficult. But and the graveyard frequencies are like, when you tune one of those, it's like there's noise and there's voices somewhere in there, but you're not really sure, actually. Richard just received his new Texan PL 330 from Anonco. I opted for express shipping, ordered Friday, got it today. That was really fast service. Yep, and you're going to have fun. It is an amazingly nice little portable, honestly. Honestly. David McCormick, listen to the lyrics of Scorpion's Wind and Change. This was the mood of the world during the days of the wall falling between east and west. Absolutely. 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 Mike Jam, nice to have you here. Ralph Cramden, did you guys in Canada see Northern Lights last week after the solar flare? A lot of people saw them, and they saw them real south. I saw reports of people seeing the Northern Lights even in California, Southern California. Here in Montreal, it was cloudy, so because I would have actually looked at the sky to see. I haven't seen the Northern Lights in Montreal since, I'd say 19, not 19, 2000 and probably the last big solar storm. So like 20 something, early 2000s. And I haven't seen any then since. Montreal's a big city, so the light pollution makes it difficult to see Northern Lights. If I see them here, man, people see them everywhere. It's like the stars, Zenfaros HCJB 6050 Spanish, faint but better than last time. Let's check it out. HCJB, the only lasting frequency of HCJB from Ecuador, by the way. 6050. Yeah, it's there. Definitely there. We got a spike. Yep. I hear it. It's not that bad of a signal, actually. It's peaking quite well. 6050 HCJB from Quito, Ecuador. The only frequency left from that frequency, when they have these moments when they have the musical, like Ecuadorian musical sounds and music. It's like, oh man, brings me back to the days of HCJB Powerhouse. Vehan Yazarian, nice to have you here. Candy Gloss, nice to have you here. 0 back from dinner, KD2ANN. And Dubious lives near a Canadian burial ground. You got to remember that, I can tell you. Robert Osborne, blackout yesterday for 2 hours. It was amazing. the clear radio reception on blackouts. I mean, the only people that are happy are people that have blackouts and have radios. Hi, Jam. Why can't we use 2 or more antennas to bring shortwave signals to our radios? You can. It's not that you can't. You can, but in order for that to be well balanced and work well, it needs to be well designed. Yep. Tom the Extra heard the wind on Mars. Nick Mayakovsky. Hope to listen to radio when we get to power outage here. Electrical interference is off the charts. I wonder if smart meters are part of it. We have smart meters here. I don't know if the thing is, I don't know if every power company uses the same kind of smart meter because they're all different probably. So here we have had smart meters installed a few years ago when that was the time when people were going crazy about it. Basically, I have not seen any change in the noise level. They seem to be pretty quiet meters. The ones that we have here, at least. But I've not seen any change. That is interesting, Matt, that you have not seen any real improvements in power outages. I mean, power outages here bring amazing signals everywhere that are washed out in the noise usually. Maybe you didn't have them in the right moment. Maybe that's the thing. VE2FGJ, nice to have you here. I like the stream description. We talk about the invisible waves we love so much from far, far away. It is indeed fascinating, that's for sure. Vince, you got it way better on 770 than for me. For me, I can hear a word. It's very low. Are you using the MLA30? Because it's very directional. So try a portable instead. Because if your MLA30 is not well positioned, it won't receive it well. Take a portable radio, put it on 770, and just turn it properly. You might find that actually pretty good because it's much stronger here. It's better than yesterday, that's for sure. I'm going to try a portable. Let's check it out here. Live, trying a portable in the middle of noise hell. And we're going to use, for this test, the Sangean ATS 405, which for medium wave is usually quite good. 770, enter. This is definitely better than yesterday because here in the middle of noise heaven or noise hell.
Coalition meeting on Saturday. That's where I was. And I didn't waste my time sitting in and listening, but boy, were people pissed off in here. They go into these forms.
So there are people pissed off, apparently.
And then they have to make a scene because that's how Chris Christie got all the attention, even though he gave.
Tired of this politics shit. So that was 770 on the Sangean. Internal ferrite in noise hell. It is much better. I hope they do go off tonight because I want to try the DX. Tonight is way better than last night. So imagine this is noise hell, and I got it. So this is way better than last night. Robert, nice to have you here. Let's check it out here. Try to go down. You know what, Candy Gloss? Yesterday I started tuning some SDRs around New York, and I noticed that there's a a lot of the SDRs that are overloaded with a station that's on 780, I believe. And it's like, whoa, okay. Jason Dolan, where can I buy a good medium wave broadcasting antenna that is not extremely large? Nowhere. That's what medium wave broadcasting antennas are all about. But you have loops that are the smallest of all. There's medium wave broadcast loops. Yeah, that's the thing. The MLA30 is very directional, and on medium wave, it's extremely important. You've got to turn it and max that signal. So, what else do we have? Matt, MDK2, the name Clear Channel goes back to when those stations were the only ones given a frequency. Now, most now share the frequencies with other stations that take steps not to interfere. Yeah, and they're often distance a lot more on the Clear Channel frequencies. So, Zenfaro 6507 USB weather, barely audible. That should be technically the Iqaluit station out in Nunavut, Canada. 6507. Do I hear anything here? Upper sideband. Yeah, it's there. I hear it. So 6507 is the Canadian Arctic Station, maritime station in Iqaluit, Nunavut, Canada. I'm surprised that they're still on because they usually shut off for the winter when the Arctic Ocean freezes over. So it's kind of interesting to see they're still on. I'm hearing it now. So 6507 Iqaluit. So it's still there. At some point, it's probably going to be off, but yeah, it's still there. Still there. And I recognize the voice from the Canadian Maritime station. So if you guys want to try a rare and rough DX, Iqaluit in Nunavut, Canada, northern and the Arctic. Women, it's a female voice. It's not very strong here, but it's there. 6507 upper sideband. That's kind of cool. What else do we have? Niladri, nice to have you here. Any possibility of Sony coming back with their great shortwave radio soon? Nope. They'll never come back. And I got to say, Texan receivers, if you have, there are several models of Texan that are, I honestly, Sony was great and they did great radios. But some of the Texans today are just so good. It doesn't matter if they come back or not. Nope, no way 6507 from Australia comes in at this time. That's for sure, Matt. I was about to say something that I should not say, and I will not say it. Canadian Radio TV guy, nice to have you here from Sherwood Park, Alberta, Canada. Pretty cool. Nice to have you here, Vahan Yazarian. Matt says we may break a record for the latest first snow here in Denver. The current record is November 17. That date is now forecast. Range and no snow is yet predicted. Wow. We have a few snowflakes. You know snowflakes? It's like cornflakes. Snowflakes predicted maybe for Sunday, but nothing serious here, for now. David, KJ4CMY, living in Germany when the wall came down. I have a piece of the Berlin Wall. 3 days after we left, they took Checkpoint Charlie away and put it in a museum. It's amazing to look at the documentaries of that, all the history. I one of the things I wish I was more. I mean, I was aware, but I wish I had the wisdom of my age now, of back when I was a teenager. I somehow did not realize that I was living and listening to shortwave in a historic moment, and that all of that was about to change. And maybe I would have done more listening, and be more like, maybe do more recordings and be more proactive about everything that happened at the time. Skip, nice to have you here. N2EI from New Jersey. Pretty cool to have you on board. What else do we have? Max 2069, Mad Max says, someone modify one of those MFJ noise eliminators for AM reception. They was able to null out one of the broadcasts sharing the same frequency to receive other broadcasts. Matt says, that has occurred to me. These outages were all been in daylight hours. Yeah, that's why you didn't see much improvement. And even worse if it were in the summertime. With the longer hours, you probably didn't see. I'm not surprised. A couple of years ago, one of the last times I went to Perry Island, it was early July. So imagine, summer solstice happened only about a week ago, and I got there early. I got there, it was, local time, noon, and now you're at the period of the longest days of summer. And I was at Perry Island, put up my radio and the wire in the trees and everything. And first thing, it was like, wow, propagation is not that great. It's, for some reason, it's like afterwards that I noticed that some of the great propagation times I had at Perry Island were more like either early May or August, September, when we're getting shorter days, and at that same time we have a little more possibility. So it's like, yep. Jeff King, my smart meter has major chuff 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 noise from 1100 to 1140. I guess it depends on what brand and what model of these they were actually using, because like I said, probably not all power companies use the same ones. So some probably are worse than others. Mike Jan, love this forum about shortwave listening. Thank you, Joe, and everyone. Well, thank you for being here, man. Trim Belly, Mr. Bale, 4096 upper sideband, scrolling up tone every second with occasional Morse code. It's probably 4097, I believe. 4096. If I hear it here. Because I believe, and let me check it out. Oh, 409. Yeah. Okay. I got it. You have that, what is it, Arizona station? It's 4095 point something, which is that that signal from, I think it's Arizona, that is broadcasting. Itzy Getcha Bro, what's your opinion of the Arongda HRD 737? I got one here. I saw it just today, actually. Anyways, it's a tough one for me to really talk about it for some really specific reason. Um, the Here in Montreal, the VHF, UHF, and FM range of radio stations are so strong that HRD 737 is useless, and I can't listen to anything, even shortwave. But I have reports of people that say, hey, it's great. So I think that the HRD 737 might not be too bad where you are in rural areas with weak signals because it's not overloaded. But in a big city like Montreal, it's useless. I would not recommend it personally. Jason Dolan, VE2FGJ. Do we know what makes medium wave signal fade in out? Some at fast rates, some slower rate, smart atmospheric turbulences. So here, what happens with medium wave signals? VE2FGJ. So you guys notice medium wave in the daytime is very local. That's it. In the nighttime, you start hearing stations from far away. And the reason for that to happen is that in the daytime, the ionosphere has F1, F2 layers, has the E layer, and has a D layer. The D layer is the layer that absorbs the low frequencies. That's why lower shortwave frequencies, there's nothing much below, a certain point. Below 10 megahertz, we don't hear much in the daytime, especially in the summer, because the D layer just absorbs the signals. And medium wave, of course, is absorbed by the D layer. Sunsets, D layer disappears. And what happens is that we now have skywave propagation from the medium wave band, the AM radio band. The fade in and out of signals, it's like shortwave, is the ionosphere isn't a fixed band of ionization that's always perfect. It is a band that reorganizes itself all the time. And it has to do with solar, all the solar energy coming towards and ionizing the band, the ionosphere. It has to do with geomagnetic activity from the Earth. Several things make the ionosphere always change. So the fade out, fade in of signals is simple. The ionosphere isn't always in the same state. It changes all the time. So at times it'll be bad for that reflection for a few minutes, then it comes back in. The speed at what is happening, how fast the fade out, fade ins are, go with all the activity going on, the solar activity, geomagnetic field, all of that together. Some days, a same frequency will be fast fading. Auroral effect. Everybody listening to shortwave for a long time have seen that. You listen to a signal and it flutters really fast. It flutters extremely fast. It's like, somebody in the radio station has Parkinson's disease or something. It's really, really fast flutter. That's what we call auroral effect. It's the ionosphere is being transformed really quickly from geomagnetic, unsettled conditions. It all has to do with solar activity, with the geomagnetic field on the Earth, what's happening, and the interactions with all of it. It's like a living being. The ionosphere is constantly shifting, changing. The ionization isn't always the same strength. Then the sun, adds energy to that. The Earth geomagnetic field in resonance with the sun's energy. All of that is always changing. It's constantly changing. So even on shortwave and on medium wave, signals fade slower, faster. It all depends on the ionosphere itself and how it's reorganizing itself constantly, minute to minute. And that's what we lived through with shortwave and medium wave. Fade in, fade out, you know, trembling of signals. It's a constant change of the ionosphere all the time. Sorry, guys. What else do we have? Zen Pharaoh saying, you mean 6604, I would guess. I would guess. Zen Pharaoh says Romania, 7325, big signal. Check it out here. 7.325. Yeah, not bad. Not bad. That's Radio Romania. So that's Radio Romania International, 7325. Not too bad tonight on the East Coast. Vince just posted on Facebook page a picture of the signal where rotate the MLA30. It's a big difference. Usually never move it. But on shortwave, it doesn't matter much. On shortwave, you won't see much difference except on local signals. For example, if you listen to CHU time signal on 3330, because it's in Ottawa, about 100 miles away, you'll see a difference. For most shortwave stations, you won't see a difference. But on medium wave, long wave, there's a huge difference in rotating loops. And it's important to do so if you do medium wave, long wave. Chris, G7 VEO, how's the ham study going? Pretty well. And still a few weeks left. And going pretty good, man. Dimitri, nice to have you here from Minnesota State. David McCormick, shortwave was exciting in the 70s and 80s, number stations all the time, multiple countries. Well, there's a lot of number stations today. You'd be surprised, I can tell you that. Richard, good evening from Albany, New York. Jill, you keep the fire burning for shortwave listening. Always get a new push from your show. Cool. That's why it's for. That's why it exists, actually. Man's been getting BBC from Ascension 7285 at 04 UT since the B21. Sometimes it's pretty good signal. Cool. Michael Brown got good copy of Female 6507 now in the log, RSPDX, and 77-foot long wire on his zero console. Cool. Nick Mayakovsky, show a lot of things have changed. Life in the 70s and 80s, everyday things are no longer with us. Broadcast TV, newspapers, the expos. Definitely, life is not what it was, and that is a definite thing. So much change happened over time. Some good, some better, and some we miss. I guess some we miss sometimes also because there's nostalgia in it. Remembering our old, good old days of being younger. I sometimes, somebody asked me a long time ago, it's like maybe a year ago, I still remember, somebody had sent me an email and asked me, how can a guy that's been listening to shortwave for 40 years be so proactive and positive on shortwave and drive people to still listen to it? And he had his own comments on it, where he was showing that he lost interest. And what I've seen is that, first of all, interest gets lost easily if you're focused on one aspect of the hobby only. Only international broadcasts. Yeah. Who we lost? And I'll say it very fair. We lost probably a lot of people that were program listeners. Because program listeners in the 70s and 80s had tons of things to listen to easily. Today, program listeners, it's a little more difficult. You got to search for your program listening, and that I understand. Then add noise and all of that. Well, maybe it's not your thing anymore, and maybe program listening is somewhere else for you. Um, but I remember when I got that email, it's like I've lost the drive to shortwave a few times over 40 years. I can't deny that. When some of my favorite stations left the bands in the 90s, for example, I had in the 90s probably times when I didn't listen to shortwave for more than a year. Zero interest. Something from the past, but not just that. It's mixed in with, in the 90s, I mean, and in my early 20s, you discover, meeting people and going to bars and going to all sorts of places with tons of people around you, social life of all kinds, and meeting somebody you like and so on. What happens is that it interferes with the general hobby. I think all of us are probably most of us in the hobby for a long time have been on and off. Life brought us distractions, and when distractions were going away or for some reason we were back into shortwave, revisited shortwave. um a lot of that happened, and I think it happened for pretty much everybody. But what kept me going is I don't think a year or goes by without me being amazed at hearing something new, something I've never heard before. Even 2021. People think, well, there's nothing on shortwave. Yeah, well, nothing on shortwave depends what you're searching for. Because on shortwave, I've got tons of things that I can tune to, but I'm not focused on one specific item of shortwave. And that is one of the things. And it all depends what you're searching for, what drives you to shortwave also. Yeah, I'm a little crazy, that's for sure. I think a lot of people that were there in the 60s, 70s, and 80s would look at me and say, yeah, why are you promoting that thing that doesn't exist really anymore and it's boring because there's nothing left? And I get that comment so regularly here on the channel. I don't take the comments of people that leave a comment and say, oh, well, we have so much on the internet today. Look at that static listening you're doing. That is somebody that, is either a troll or just, you don't know what you're talking about, man. Because I'll say it again and again. First, the internet did not kill shortwave. Second, if internet was that shortwave killer, stations like Radio Netherlands would be broadcasting in multiple languages on streaming on the internet. They didn't, because radio was not their thing anymore because there was not enough listeners. The internet was not better. We don't shift our listening. I think we could agree that most of us, if shortwave would die a final death tomorrow, we're not going to listen on stream on the internet of anything. That's not who we are. That's now how we consume our media of shortwave. We'll just go back to, well, okay, well, that was a fun time. It doesn't exist anymore, and we got to move on. We're not going to be, listening to some stream of some station over the internet because we missed shortwave. I had a $300 St. Gian Wi-Fi radio that is completely useless now because of the shutdown of the receiver database. It's not a completely useless. I could use it as a audio amplifier to listen to my favorite music at home on the network, but I don't really care about that. when I purchased it, I was excited. It was like, oh, like, 15,000 streams of stuff from around the world. I ended up using it as streaming my favorite, online music stations and Christmas music and the holidays. And you look at it, it's like, yeah, did you do any more? Yeah, I had the BBC streamed from time to time on it. Nothing much more, honestly. Um, we're a different breed of people, and we keep the hobby alive because there's stuff to listen to, and there's nothing more exciting than your radio with that little antenna, whatever you have, getting a signal 10,000 kilometers away, and you're like, wow, this is so cool. I can tell you that. V2FGJ, thank you for the medium wave fade in out explanation. And it's the same for shortwave and the ham bands on HF. It's an ever changing ionosphere, which is always replacing the electrons and the ions, and it all has to do with all the interactions of the solar activity, the geomagnetic field, and so many things together, and in our world. Vahan, my radio garage is full of $20 shortwave radios. Cool. The important thing is to have fun. Paul, nice to have you here from Southwest Michigan. Robert Prosper fired up his Grundig S450 DLX this evening. What a mess. The bandwidth and optical coder switches click in and out constantly. Still gives a great sound through FM when it works. Yeah, that S450 DLX, what is sad, mine is completely out. It worked great when I got it. It worked great for a certain time. Didn't use it for a year, turned it on a year later, and it's like, wow, it doesn't even work anymore. It is a complete trash of a radio. Quality control in there was so bad. It's sad because honestly, what a good, cool looking radio, and what an amazing audio it can bring out. But man, that S450 DLX is a dud. If anybody sees that and wants to buy one, stay away. They are horrible radios over time. David KJ4 CMY says, I heard that flutter fading on medium wave occasionally. Now I know why it's happening. So, Robert Prosper, in the past we had Radio Netherlands. Now we have YouTube. Yeah, why not? Vahan says, I grew up in Midwest Allied radio country. And in winter, there was nothing else to do. That's cool. And that was a cool thing to do. Radio was cool. Jeff King, been into shortwave since 1975. I really don't DX much, but I still love listening to programs and stations. I just refocused. Yeah, that's pretty much. David McCormick, thank you for your shortwave passion, Joe. Yeah. I was going to be here. The day I'm not here is because the day I abandoned, and I don't think that's coming any near future, honestly. Take care, James Johnson. David McCormick, propagation, shortwave signals will always be there. It's all in what you want to listen to. Yep. But you know what, Robert Prosper? I don't think the internet killed of the conventional AM FM radio. You do that. You are the one that is asking for FM or AM station streaming. honestly, those that leave AM FM radio are leaving for a specific streaming of content, not streaming of of a station from somewhere. So, for example, most people that have an assistant will not say, "Hey, you know, whatever device, play WABC 770." That's not what they do. They will just play. They will be more like play, blah 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 music online. That's more of what's killing maybe AM FM conventional radio. Is that we have, I'm the first one to do that. I have YouTube Music subscription here. I will listen to music on my devices because I listen to what I want to listen to and I want to hear. I don't have to wait for my favorite songs to play. So that is what kills demand for AM FM radio music stations, probably a lot. And, I think there's still people listening to AM FM radio in the home, but the majority of AM FM radio listening still, I think, today is done in your car when you commute and so on. That's where you listen to your favorite AM FM station more than in the home, probably. So, David McCormick, a beacon from a distant aeronautical transmitter is better than a bad day of fishing. It's like fishing. I mean, what we are fishing radio waves, I mean, who goes fishing wants that, rare fish that's in there in that lake and try to bring it in. Well, and is waiting for it and trying for it. And well, shortwave is the same thing, you know. RGA Dakota have some interesting things I can hear on my internet radio, but I do realize what happens if the internet goes down. That's also something. It's not that internet radio isn't interesting, and honestly, anybody that has an internet radio and listens to it, I do not, because I see people like poo these people. It's like, oh well, you know what, blah blah blah. No, wait. There's content on the internet, and it's might be interesting for people to listen to it. I'll be very fair. If it wasn't from my HD radio that gets BBC streaming through the WVPS station in Burlington, I often asked my Google Assistant to play BBC World Service on streaming because there is definitely stuff to listen to on these devices. They're different, and we can't compare them. I think when people say, well, I've got the streaming box that no, shortwave and that is two things. You like that, it's fine. We like shortwave, it's fine. We're hybrid, we listen to both. It's great. They're two different things. Let's not compare what streaming on any device is to shortwave radio listening. Two different worlds, and it's fine that you listen to one or the other or both. That is for sure. Because there's definitely some stuff that's interesting online, I mean, come on. Michael Brown, my interest changed. I am DXing low frequency beacons. I like mad before they are gone. I like utility listening to transoceanic aircraft. Sometimes just go net on medium wave DXing, but radio is always there. Yeah. And I think, our hobby shifts. 1 week will be in, or 1 month will be in intense DXing of international broadcasts. And the next day will be in, I want to go to the ham bands and try to get all of these stations from unique countries around the world and so on. It's a shifting hobby. That actually is why we keep listening. The more you are diversified in what you can do, the more you stay on the radio listening hobby. Man Max says, I got into shortwave radio in the late 80s. Found a shortwave radio in a garage sale for $1. Didn't last long, lasted for a month before it died, and I didn't have the funds to replace. Yeah, Rabamba. Shell, good point. I used to listen to shortwave for content news, opinion. Now I see the content is not good. I listen for excitement of catching far stations. So it all depends on what you want to do. You know, there's still some content. But it's not like, 30 years ago. That's for sure. Van, who is your handsome furry assistant? He's sleeping in the bedroom. Mac 315, I think the golden age of shortwave as far as equipment is concerned was during the 80s and 90s. Icom Kenwood Yesu and others produced some fantastic stuff back then. I will not agree with that for a very simple reason, and I will tell you why. I think the golden age of equipment of shortwave is now. And the reason it's now, and I understand your point of view, because I think it depends what definition you'll put to the golden age of shortwave equipment. So an example, you're in the golden age of 80s and 90s, ICOMs, Kenwoods, Yesu. I will, people in the chat room will be in the golden age of, the tube transoceanics of the 60s or 50s or whatever. I'll agree with you that some of these radios are amazing. And, I had a Kenwood 5000. I'll agree with whoever tells me a transoceanic from the 50s is amazing. But I'll add my own opinion on that. The portables and the radios of today have their place in the golden age of what all shortwave is all about. And they're bringing a new generation of radio listeners to be able to listen because they can afford one of those radios. They're all solid states. They're all portables for the most part. They're much smaller than what was in the past. But dang, they bring in performance like we've never seen in such low-priced receivers. So I think, it depends on what we're looking at and what is the golden age of radio for all of us. We have a different interpretation and a different feel of what golden age radio is, depending on who we are. But I get it. I mean, I've had some great radios from the 80s that I think about it today and I'm like, wow, man, these were so cool to own and to use. And I think each generation, each decade brought their own dedicated, amazing equipment. And I think we're in an era in 2020. We're in 2021. We're in an age where I got to say, we're in a moment in our existence where, shortwave still exists? Really? Radio's 100 years old. And depending on the interpretation of golden age, each decade had its golden age of its own. And in 2021, we're in a golden age of the advanced electronic era where microchips and radio on a chip are giving us amazing equipment that in 100 years from now will be golden age of, wow, remember those Texans of the night of 2020? Man, these things were like so amazing performers. It all depends where we put our golden age and how we think of it, honestly. Dave Conti, located in New York City, reception on a Texan R9, probably 9012 is what you're talking about. Very poor. Should I spend more on a better receiver? Two things you should do. First, you know what? Take that R9012, go to a park where it's far from houses and homes and businesses, and without getting mugged, do listen to the shortwave bands in a quiet location. You might find that, it's not that bad actually, because the R9012 is surprising for its price. That said, should you invest a better radio? Probably. But before, you might need to understand that where you are listening, the problem isn't the radio, it's the amount of noise you've got where you live. For example, if the R9012 has a little red light, which is a signal strength indicator, if there's no station, you hear just noise and the red light's on, you got too much noise. It's all being washed out. It's all being washed out. What else do we have? Zen Farrows is hearing Halifax weather, 2749 upper sideband. Cool. Yeah, David McCormick. Unfortunately, all the radios on the receiver database. That's kind of a blow. Honestly, I find it sad that it happens. That's why, when somebody tells me what internet radio should I buy, I always say buy an assistant. It plugs into whatever you want, But even in an assistant, it's going to arrive to a point where it's going to be, like not supported anymore, probably, and stuff like that. It's kind of sad, Oh man, Usenet. So David McCormick, SpaceX Dragon has left the Earth on the way to the ISS. Cool. No, Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canada, Nick Mayakovsky. Kenny Gloss, they're so much easier to use than a lot of older radios, not having to fill around with a knob for ages just to get into single sideband. Feels so good after going from radio from the 70s. Absolutely. The radios today are amazing equipment. Can tell you that. JDA Dakota used to have a radio that used receiver. New radio used SkyTune and is open-ended. David McCormick, shortwave equipment has only gotten better in design. I only wish I had some of my new receivers years ago. Yeah. Ron C. Bienvenue. Nice to have you here. JD Dakota, does feel nice to tuning SSB signal without struggling and then have to drift away. Absolutely. Richard Bittner, good night. Take care. But absolutely. How amazing it is that today a $70 radio is more stable than a $500 radio of 30 years ago. Pretty amazing when you think about it. Man, technology just got better. Scott Belcher, before internet, YouTube, I knew so much less. I'd build these antennas and try to get stations, not knowing a wire would have been better. You're contributing so much to this golden age. And, that's another thing. When somebody tells me shortwave is killing the hobby, I will add, nope, shortwave and internet. Shortwave is killing the hobby. Internet's killing the hobby. I will add, internet is a plus to our hobby. Never have we had such an easy way of knowing what station we heard it. I mean, come on. In the 70s, 60s, 80s, we would tune something in English and it was like, what's that? Only to have, after 40 minutes of listening, the fade out of the signal, just as they were saying, this is radio, blah, blah. It's like, okay, I have no idea what that was. I listened for 40 minutes to some program that I have no idea where it came from. Today, click. It's like, 7814 is like that thing. Okay, 6205. Oh, that's that thing. Okay. 93, 95. Oh, that's that WRI. And it's like, it's never been so easy to know what we're tuning. It's almost, when I look at newbies today, I'm like, well, I think I'm listening to the BBC, and it's like, why are these schedules, like inaccurate? And why is it that that schedule's wrong? Yeah, you should have been there when in 1983 I was trying to figure out what the hell I'm listening to. I got to tell you, it's like, yeah, you got to get that book of outdated schedules because the books were like, the schedule like 6 months earlier. It's like, yeah, I've got that outdated frequency book. It's like, I think this is Radio Australia, but I'm not sure, you know? And most of our IDs in the 60s, 70s, and 80s was like, okay, I'm going to listen to this boring, because a lot of programs are fun, but sometimes it's like, okay, I'm going to listen to this boring program for an hour to know what station. Maybe that's Radio Tirana or whatever. That has changed today. So when a newbie tells me, well, these schedules are inaccurate, and it's like, yeah, you should have listened in 1982. Maybe you wouldn't complain about the schedules today. It's like, internet today is definitely helping our hobby. We got schedules. You punch in a frequency on Google. It's like, oh, I heard something on 4426 upper sideband. What could that be? You Google it and it just gives you an answer. It's like, oh, look at that. It's the U.S. Coast Guard HF transmissions, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Today, it's never been as easy, even though sometimes it's difficult, to just know what you're listening to and tune in. And this is cool. The internet is definitely helping our hobby today. Definitely helping our hobby today. I can tell you that. Earth Girl, nice to have you on board. One of the few women in my circle who listens to Shortwave. My hubby and I have been set up on CB station in our home, living near Andrews Air Force Base. Pick up the weather beacon a lot. Cool, welcome aboard. And it's fun to have, women in the hobby. There are some, but there's not that many, and it's cool to have women in there. That's definitely something nice. Mac 315, I'll agree with you, Joe. I have several new portables, and they are fantastic. Started out listening to the Alicrafters S120, so I love the desktop units with lots of knobs and buttons. And honestly, if I had an Alicrafters S120 and a Texan H501X, I love them both, and they both are terrific radios and designs, and for their own time, they are classics, and they are so beautiful, and they are so amazing. It's crazy because that's one thing you got to when I take out one of my American 5 tube receivers that you can die from just touching the circuit board because they are so bad in design and electrical shock or something. Still, you look at those and it's like, I see the tubes glowing, and it's like, man, for your era, for your time, just so cool to see all of those radios and technologies. So each era has its own little something. Think about when you lived through an intense era of radio. I lived through the 80s of radio. When you live through it, oh, it's cool, and that radio is cool, and this radio is cool. It's 30 years later, you noticed, oh, look at that. I lived through a very interesting era of radio, and these radios were a classic of the time. But you don't realize that until 20, 30 years later. Like, in 20 years, we'll look back at Texan receivers, and we're like, oh, wow. I remember 20 years ago with that Texan radio. I'm almost there, like the Texan PL600 I got here, which is one of the first ones, I think is 8 or 9 years old now. It's one of the old radios, the oldest Texan radios I got. I mean, I got a Texan radio that's almost 10 years now. That's something to think about. And I remember when I purchased the Texan PL 600, I was the guy that was still in the mode of a good portable radio cannot be good below $200-300 minimum. And I remember I purchased the Texan PL 600 on eBay for something like $75. And I was curious because it had digital display, it had shortwave coverage, full general coverage, so and PLL synthesized and everything. And I thought, okay, I'm curious about that. How does it perform? A $75 radio cannot be that good. And I got it. I tried it, and I was impressed. I was like, dang, a $75 radio today is amazingly good compared to, it's not perfect. The audio was distorted a little bit. It's one of the flaws of the 600 that can be fixed because there are mods out there for that. But in general, the performance, like, wow, a $75 radio gives me that performance today. It changed my mind to what amount of money you can pay for a good radio. I've had a lot of discussions over the last weeks of people talking about their high-end receivers. And me going back and saying, well, today's radios might actually be very surprising to you. But there's this kind of backlash of, no. It's impossible that a cheap Chinese-made radio of 2020, because that's the wording most of them will use. It's like, a cheap Chinese crap radio from 2020 can perform or give signals of my $1,000 receivers from 10 years ago, from 5 years ago. We had the discussion, and I'm sure that guy was probably a little frustrated a week or two ago about, he came in and said, I don't understand how today's listeners don't get a good desktop from the 1990s or 80s. And my first comment was, today's Texan portables are a million times, better to purchase as brand new radios than a 40-year-old desktop radio. And we had a discussion on that. And, of course, there was friction on it a little bit. I'm not saying that a 30-year-old desktop cannot be a good radio. It definitely can be a good radio. But I think a lot of people that are either hams or listeners from and have those radios for 40 years that never purchased any other radio today don't understand how good the portables of today have become compared to what it was in the past. And I think too many of those older hams and older radio listeners think of today's portables as the portables they had when they purchased that $1,000 radio. Okay radios, nothing more. Today, no, it ain't like that. And although higher end expensive radios do have an edge because of features they might add and processing they could do and so on, the performance difference between a $150 radio today and a $2,000 radio desktop today in the 70s and 80s might have been this big. Today it's this big. Today, those portables are as good and are amazing performers like $1,000 radios of the past. And unless you bought one, you might still be thinking that those portables of today are underperforming compared to big gun radios. And I can tell you that owner of a big gun radio, the R8500, and I used to have a R5000. What I understand today in the hobby is that, yeah, if you have the money, it's cool to have these big gun radios that are expensive. They're cool, but that's not what you need anymore to have fun and to really DX on shortwave. You don't need $1,000 radios anymore to DX on shortwave. You need just to have the good choice of the receiver and the portable, and for 100 or 200, you're in. And you're in with a much better radio that I was in, 40 years ago. I can tell you that. Yeah, like Matt says, wouldn't be here listening to me if it wasn't for the internet. Absolutely. This is an added bonus of your experience of radio listening. Totally. Totally. We have this. I wish, I told it so many times. I wish in 1982 I would have some guy on some video forum of somewhere in the world that would just talk about, I would be one of those fans watching all the live shows from that guy with my DX100, and it's like, oh, look at that. Oh, this is so cool. Oh, really? Oh, somebody's hearing Voice of Greece. Oh, let's try if I can hear it. It's like, I would have loved something like this in my existence of starting out. But no, that didn't exist. In 1982, you had, outdated club bulletins of shortwave. You received the big thing in the 80s, in the 90s was, I'm going to get the new schedules for the next schedule season of my favorite stations, and I'm going to keep the little pamphlets. It's like, I remember, and I can tell you guys, I remember going through HCJB's frequency pamphlet, and it's like, oh, in the morning, okay, they're on 115. Okay, oh, they switched to, 9745 and 15155 in the evening. Okay, oh, for the winter, they're on 11 something, But we would follow those pamphlets and some stations would actually be, add us to their frequency schedule list, and we would get them because it was the only way we knew when a station was on the air at what time and what frequency. It was so complicated. Oh man, just crazy. David McCormick, watch a movie Contact and you won't understand how young we are as a radio broadcaster. The first radio signals just as reach. We the first VHF, one of the things that are very important is that the first signals that were broadcast that are in space had to be in maybe HF on the higher frequency range if the ionosphere wasn't really solid, but for the most part the VHF range was the first time signals actually left. So TV broadcasts, the FM band, some VHF signals, whatever they were back in the the 40s and 30s and so on. As long as we stayed in the low frequency and HF range, we didn't really broadcast to the universe. Now noise is a big ball of noise broadcasting 24 hours a day to the universe. But that said, one thing we have to remember here, okay, is that since the power of a signal decreases, so every time that the distance doubles, the power of a signal is 4 times less. Okay. That means signals decrease in power very fast as they travel to space. FM broadcast stations, VHF stations of all kind are, not focused signals. They're omnidirectional for the most part. They are not focused to a specific area. Those are very affected by that rule because as signals are going away, those are the most, they're the ones getting very weak very fast. The only signals that really could reach and there's a few of them. There were a few broadcasts that were done. One on the Arecibo radio telescope that was in Puerto Rico, which is sad that it's gone now. There are quite a few signals that were sent through space, very focused in directions of a few places. But remember that even if our first transmission on VHF range would be 100 years old, that means we've just done 100 light years around our planet. 100 light years. And at 100 light years, that signal must be so weak, I doubt anybody can see it. Let's not forget that the only way, look at the Voyager spacecraft that are out of the solar system now. Low power, but they're focusing. They have a small radio telescope. They have a dish on their probes that focuses the maximum amount of power towards us, and even that, we need extreme computer processing to remove the noise from the signal that we're getting that is extremely weak. Now, it's 5 watts. Let's give it that it's very low power. Unless we send out signals that are megawatts of power, okay, and very focused in space. Our noise bubble of VHF, UHF radio stations of any kind is not something that's going to be visible in a very big area of our own galaxy, basically, because it's just too broad. It's just like, you're not focusing the signal in a specific direction. It just gets wasted everywhere. You need to focus to really do. So there are a few things. There was in Arecibo, I think, in 77 or something, they sent the Beatles song across the universe with something that was like a megawatt, 1,000,000 watts of power. That's towards the Big Dipper. So that technically could be receivable at a pretty far distance because it was focused in an area, had a lot of power in it. And if some alien somewhere has some really sensitive equipment and pinpoints towards us by accident, probably, that also adds another, you have to have chance. That's it's a tough one. And add the fact that, if you send a signal out there to a specific star, even to our closest neighbor, which is Proxima Centauri, which is what, 4 point some light years. You send a signal there. If somebody would respond, it's 8 years. 8 years. 4 years to go. 4 years for the answer. And they have to be listening and be there because it's easy to miss. We see it on shortwave. How easy is it to miss a transmission that was brief? Very easy to not even notice that it was there. Imagine in the universe, man. Somebody asked somewhere out there, it's just like, it's crazy. So it's something that is very weak for most of the signals we're sending out because they're not focused. They're just too broad. We got to remember that. What else do we have? Trivia question: what was on the first extraterrestrial broadcast man-made on 20.005, 40.002? That was Sputnik. I would love to listen to that for the first time. I could imagine the amount of people being freaked out that the Russians have sent something in space. At the time, Cold War, freak out for everybody. Yarabamba, amazing. The internet allows you to know what shortwave stations are live in real time. Yep. Mac 315, Texan PL 660 still surprises me with its performance. Yep. Oh, man. Yep. Latest edition of the World Radio TV Handbook. If the internet connection is down, the power is out. There's the 2021 edition coming out in December. They announced it now. Anybody that wants the World Radio TV Handbook, the 2021 edition is coming out in December. Michael Brown, SDR radios are the biggest bang for the buck if you have a computer. Absolutely. Even lower in price. You're talking about a Spy Discovery, $169. Anybody that gets the SDR Play RSP1A for $109, I think it's $109 or $119. Man, you're getting some amazing device for a low price, and the added bonus that I never thought we'd have that. See the spectrum, not just listen to it. Visualize the spectrum of shortwave and see the signals everywhere. You would have told me that in 1982, or like, what? I could see 10 megahertz of spectrum and see what's there and click on it. I would have called you a sorcerer or something, Actually, look at that, guys. I'm going to show you what I've been doing. I'm going to actually turn on the TV because I want to show you guys. I'm a little crazy on old technology sometimes. So my crazy self has been playing Secret of Monkey Island in the past few days, and I've been playing it with this little device here. Look at that. So that's the screen. That's the TV. That's Secret of Monkey Island where I am. If I do this, press the space bar and have the mouse. So on Amiga 500, that's what I've been doing for the past few days when I have a little time. Crazy old technology. Oh, man. David McCormick, Back in the Future 2021. But Doc, all the good stuff is made from China. Yeah, it's like, when they have that, it's like, oh, I know why this is junk made in Japan. What do you mean? Oh, God. John Beckham, nice to have you here from Northeast Florida. Herd Girl, right now I'm using a Radiowow R108. And oftentimes I cannot sleep. Plug in my earbuds, my Reticus PR15. So pretty cool. Pretty cool. Nice to have you here, guys. David McCormick, grateful to have both the internet and shortwave radio listening. However, it was fun to get a newsletter in the mail and shortwave schedules that came in. Oh, absolutely. Getting mail was cool. I mean, I remember being sad because I didn't have any mail in the mailbox when I would come home. Oh, man. Kenny Glass. Oh my God, I love you even more now. Hey, Dwayne, see you Saturday. 20 hours UTC. Take care, Brent. Always nice to have you on board. John Meckham, I like to speaker stereo portable on Texan PL 398 MP, considering AM FM shortwave with MP3 player. Yeah, I've seen it, but I've never owned one. But I did definitely see it. It looks really, really nice. Sexy little radio of today, can tell you that. Mike 315, back in the 90s, Grove Enterprise designed a receiver with a spectrum display, but it never made it to production. Yeah, but probably because of the price. It was too expensive back then. Remember, guys, these SDRs of the time, which were big cards that you had to put in your 386 computer in one of the ISA slots or whatever. And then you would close the cover, and then there would be the software. Man, that was the old SDR radios. And these things cost thousands of dollars. Those were so expensive. And, I can't even imagine how the performance and the noise level from maybe the desktop computer had in there. Pretty crazy. So it's amazing what we have today. That's definite. You cannot be in much better times. We're just we're missing out. And for those of us that have been here for a long time, we're kind of missing out mostly on nostalgia of stations we liked in the past. But there's still stuff to listen to, and we got to keep alive the hobby. One of the reasons and one of the things you could do, don't forget, if you do listen to a station regularly, then it doesn't take a long time to do it. Take the time to listen in. And you know what? You'll be rewarded with stuff like, for example, just to give you an idea, you'll be rewarded with things like QSL cards like these that I got in the mail a couple of weeks ago when I had my challenge for all of you guys of, listening and writing into stations, letting them know that they are still fun to listen to. That was cool, especially in those days. I looked at the mailbox; it was like a letter. And today, in the mailbox, what kind of letter do you have? Most of it is, oh, okay, I got a bill or whatever, renewal of some kind of whatever. And I was like, oh, look at that, Radio Prague. This is so cool. So, oh man. So, hey guys, I'm a little tired. I'm going to say goodbye for tonight. I hope you enjoyed this show today. I will be I'll be playing Secret of Monkey Island. No, joking. If you live on the East Coast or in an area where you actually have WABC 770 available, maybe DX a little bit tonight, because they are possibly going to have more of their maintenance this tonight. So that means they'll be off for a while. And last but not least, remember that next Wednesday, a week from now, I will be there will be no show because on Monday I'm having surgery. And for the Saturday show of next week, I'll let you know if it happens or not. It depends on how I feel. But until then, we have a show on Saturday at 20 hours Universal Time. So hope you enjoyed the show tonight. Stay safe, my friends. Take care. And see you Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, 20 hours Universal Time. Take care, everybody.